Good afternoon, and I'm very happy. I think probably all very ready for weekend, isn't it? Go for energy conservation. I said energy saved is energy generated. So when we have energy efficiency, these are some of the advantages. You know that we definitely we in India we have really gone in very advanced in various levels. We have different kind of institutions like Energy Efficiency Bureau and renewable energy, so many institutions are there, and they are doing even IS Bureau of Indian Standards. They also work very closely, and they also created so much standards. And for the last 4 decades, in that very much advanced they have done. And USA definitely they are the leader in all these things. And but particularly in this part of the world, in Middle East country, necessity is the mother of the invention. Maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that concept was not there because nobody is having a data, and energy is very cheap here. And because most of oil is produced in this, the entire world economy is based on oil actually. So almost all the power plants are basically oil based only, not like India where we have a coal based thermal power plants, or see, because we have a coal is available. Like if you go to the developed countries, we have a lot of nuclear energy. In India also we have, but nuclear energy's contribution is maybe not that much significant, maybe 9% or 10% or 15%. And we also have the renewable energy like wind energy and all the things. So 25 years ago, this was not there in this type of GCC countries, particularly Middle East. But now, because of this, all this international environmental protocol, where they are also signatories, all this type of international protocols, even COP, most of these countries they sign, they have a commitment to reduce this carbon releases, actually carbon monoxide, and they also don't have much clean energy. Like they don't have hydraulic power stations because we don't have much dams and all the things here, not like India or maybe in Canada, or where we have so much hydraulic power stations are there. And so that's what they always try to improve upon this type of, one is from the source product side, and second is again using the renewable energy to reduce this type of carbon reductions as well as carbon rating, because they must have some commitment within this much years. Every government has got a different protocol they must have signed. There is a separate department. That's what, on that basis only, UAE have developed a separate institution called as Masdar, and they do so much research. On that basis only, the Estadama, the standard they've been developed, they have developed actually. That has become as a reference now to all this type of thing in that. So these are many energy efficiency benefits basically. And I hope this you all may be understanding this energy unit intensity, because this is normally as a benchmark based on the data. Normally, every country has got its own different kind of energy unit intensity, like with different type of buildings differs, because you have a different type of lux level in a hospital, production level, you have different type of lux level. And similarly, when you go for air conditioning, inside comfort also different kind of comfort requirements when you design. For hospital, we have different inside condition. Maybe when you go for a product factory design, so probably you can go for a higher temperature, maybe 27, 28 is also okay. Even it can go up to 30 degree. Or in some places, you don't need air conditioning. Probably you need only evaporative cooling, just like textile industries, spinning mills and weaving mills. So this type of thing, everything in that. So on that basis, every building has got a different envelope and different working hours. We have occupancy rates and different kind of HVAC loads, and we have different kind of light loads. Then, of course, water consumption and fuel consumption. So for that purpose, normally they try to have some benchmark called as energy utility index. That's the unit is kilowatt hour per meter squared. And then that one I have just normally I have taken. They are important factors and contribute to the performance of the building in that. So this generally I have taken from Singapore energy and utility index. I have taken from that because when I was doing my study here in Oman, we don't have this type of energy literacy data here, and still we are struggling. And because we don't have data, people are not understanding. But probably now we have also a professional institution called as Oman Society of Engineers. So they are also very seriously looking for to collect this type of data and to find out. So these are some of the average energy intensity for the various kinds of buildings, hospitals, offices, supermarkets, hotels, schools, and small clinics in that. So, and also this all maybe you may be also considering when you do the include calculation or when you do the energy efficiency design. We call this cooling degree days as well as heating degree days, HDD and this one. So this I'm talking about in Muscat, the CDD actually, cooling degree days actually. But mostly when you do in Europe or something, we always take the this all data. So you can take it from the metrological design values. This must be in the standard also. So basically, the cooling degree days determine the quantity of energy required to cool a building. It is a measure of how much and how far long in days the outside temperature was above the certain level, just like a benchmark level. They are commonly used in calculations relating to the energy consumption required to cool the buildings in the design aspect. So CD values are used to design the size and capacity of the air conditioning units. So on that basis, only this I have taken. So this energy saving, particularly ASHRAE normally as a guidance is ASHRAE standard 90.1 in that. So we have, every country has got different kind of standard, different kinds of codes. And but ASHRAE, again, we all follow ASHRAE 90.1 as well as, yes. So this normally applies to the small to medium-sized buildings with the floor areas up to about 100,000 square feet area. So basically, if you are able to have to achieve and maintain 50% energy use reduction in any of the buildings, any site, you have a specific set of building energy systems on that by designing. So that should be a target if you really want to design the design stage. So for that basic understanding of the local climate, site requirement, and what are the drivers for the building orientation and the budget again, the capital cost as well as the recurring cost, and the creativity of the AC design engineer. This I've been telling all the time. A design is a creative issue. It cannot, okay, we have a set of rules, but at the end of the day, how best you are using your creativity, how much the commitment, how much you are putting your heart and soul to define actually, to design a system when you as an air conditioning system is, it involves various thing like you have to take a product chiller, and there also you have very limited thing because it is coming from different manufacturers, different data sheets are there, then you have a different kind of material, then you have to also involve the different kind of stakeholders, various stages. So this is the what your creativity and then your teamwork actually. So these all basically you have to understand, and that is the best factors for the designing on energy efficient system in that. So as I've been all the time, I'm telling you should always go for the integrated design process approach. But if you ask me, sir, when you go for integrated design process approach, will you be able to design 100%? I will tell yes. It is not, I cannot assure. Every system has got its own advantage and disadvantages. That's what I also explained to you. Though we use to execute this airport project here in Oman, all high-level latest softwares for designing three-dimensional view, three-dimensional analysis. Even in the, we can always visualize it. Even before the site is, how before the plain site, how the building looks, what are the services will go, all the services, everything, you're able to see the three-dimensional modeling. Everything we did on computers by using a latest advanced software. But during the execution time, we really failed. It failed in the sense the project delayed almost 4 to 5 years because of the quality control issue, various contractors, or maybe there is a lot of communication gap, or it was not documented properly. Various agencies, in the site, various agencies are involved. There will be a main contractor, a civil contractor, and there will be electrical contractor, there will be air conditioning contractor, even electrical air conditioning also, there will be so much subcontractors, which all in the first class I mentioned. for ducting, most of the thing, either you are a prefabricated or sometimes you are locally fabricated. And then piping, you may have a different kind of piping contractor. Then you have erection contract. I mean, all the equipments are tested and brought to the site. So this is all with the standard specification, like inspection certificate. You have to also ensure that the same product is delivered and the same product is installed as per the installation manuals. And then all these things again, finally, is it being properly tested? And then it is pre-tested and tested and commissioned and documented. So various stages also there. So definitely energy saving become a very important topic nowadays, everywhere, the whole world. So it definitely, what are the essential, what are the critical need of the energy saving? What we need actually? We need definitely an experienced and innovative design team, as I told also. And then we also need a database, an integrated design process. Based on the integrated design process also, it should be also based on certain benchmark value. And then as much as possible, you need to have a daylighting consultant, because this lighting is also become a very specialized area now. And then lighting consultant as well as air conditioning consultant, they have to work like both brothers actually, because many times all the services, the fittings and everything, if you go on during the execution time, most of these lighting fittings, they are so much advanced now. And then your ducting also, you are taking about the false ceiling, and the architect always give a very, very limited space. So you may have a different difficulties in execution time in the design. You may not anticipate all the thing. So this all you need to avoid. That's what yesterday also I told, the meaning of this risk management. Risk management calculation at the design stage is a must. What type of risk, how much risk factor, and how much it is going to affect during the execution time also. Then energy modeling, every software has got the energy modeling. Then commissioning, we have a commissioning course. Now commissioning is also emerging as a very specialized subject, particularly in air conditioning. HVAC commissioning has become a very different, specialized commissioning, very specialized area now. A big, like district air conditioning in Dubai and all the things, they have a district air cooling system. So in that type of building, we may have 20,000, 50,000 tons of plants. And that type of such a big plant, we need a proper pre-commissioning as well as commissioning, and then testing, and then documentation in that. And then the training of the staffs who are going to maintain that one. And then automation. The automation is also very, very important, particularly the building management system. And though we have a very sophisticated controls nowadays, but all these sensors, now, I still remember in 1988 or something, I was trying to develop a microprocessor control for the railway coach air conditioning system. I remember it was a ASHRAE conference, and I was presenting on paper about the microprocessed controls in the train compartment. That those days we don't have a 3-tier AC, it was a 2-tier AC mostly, because 3-tier AC started coming maybe after 90s only. This may be 88 or 89. I still remember when I was trying to work out on that 2-tier microprocessor based controls. But now this has become a modern BMS system and all the things. That time I was not aware much on that. So when I was making that paper, we have put various sensors. Even I was presenting the paper, the industrial representative, the first question what they asked me was, what is the energy of your sensors? Now I put the various sensors at different places, like supplier duct, I put the humidistat or thermostat, and the sensors will also send the signal. Then it will try to get the analog signal to digital signal. And then how much time it will take, the inertia of that one, and how much response time my mechanical equipment will respond, like my compressor or this type of the question. So at that time I was not much clear about that. But let us take the practice, and when we work on the system, when we see, and there's so much advances later it has come, particularly on the building automation system, building management system. The building management system is definitely a very, very important. It's a part and parcel of HVAC system design. I hope you all strongly, or you are recommending BMS system when you are designing your HVAC system, for any, irrespective of whether it is a smaller system or bigger system. I hope that automation system in association to monitor your air conditioning system, I strongly recommend that you should always recommend the BMS system. I hope you are you doing? I'm just asking. For example, you are designing a hotel project, let us say 300 room hotel project. Are we recommending the BMS system? Or if you are designing a hospital, about say 200 bed hospital or 300 bed hospital, are you recommending BMS system as a part of your HVAC system? Hello?
Yes, sir. Actually, the whatever project I've been working on,
Okay.
I've
So
seen,
you have the,
in most of those, the engineer of record, they had already mentioned that they are going to use the BMS system. So,
yes.
yes, we understand the importance of that, and in case we design it from scratch, we always go with that.
Okay, that's right. That's what that should be also a very important point, because this BMS definitely will help us not only on the design stage, even during the operational stage also, operation time also. The O&M contractor who are operating and maintaining the contractor will also, they can use it, this BMS system for the logging the data, and then latest for the energy study, then it will be useful also to carry out the energy auditing. Because energy auditing is another subject which is a part of the maintenance contractor or facilities management contractor in that. And the air conditioning industry is growing, exponentially growing actually. The whole, this was the only flourishing industry, irrespective of the very downtown everywhere. Every season, because the climate is also very harsh and people are manufacturing everywhere, whether it's a unitary type of air conditioners or package air conditioners or central air conditioning, and they don't have a time. That's what jokingly or sarcastically I mentioned all these leading manufacturers. Probably you people don't use much R&D in the development of our refrigeration product. I don't know if I'm wrong, you can correct me. You know how much we have done in automobile engineering, how much R&D we have done. I'm just asking, like, for example, a car about 50 years ago back, and how much advanced car, like if you go to the Benz or BMW, everything, the safety, not only this, we have also done, but comparatively, compared to the IC engine design improvement, the controls, even the embedded part actually, relatively what we have done in our refrigeration equipment, people will tell, okay, sir, we have done so much advancement design in compressor or heat exchanger. We have done a lot of things in micro channel heat, many things we can do. But to me, my personal opinion, we have not done much what the automobile industries have done in that. And because we are also very energy intensive also, actually. This is what my personal opinion, but if I'm wrong, you can correct me. So whenever the platforms, whenever the opportunities I get, I always tell who all these major manufacturers like Carrier and Train, and this York, Macway people when they are there, even Johnson Controls, and all this type of leading manufacturers, Daikin also, the leading manufacturers when they come actually. So that's what every government has always taken a lot of initiatives to develop energy efficient air conditioning system. This also in my first class I told, most of the governments from the source itself, they will specify there's an energy star ratings, energy. If you see about 50 years ago, one very few companies in India who manufactures air conditioners. There was a Delhi-based company called as Fides Loy, and then this Voltas and Blue Star. These are the three leading companies, maybe 40 years ago. And they were mainly focusing on window type of air conditioners. And then maybe Voltas and Blue Star also, they normally get it assembled from somewhere else. They put their their name in that. But Fides Lloyd, they have a very big factory in somewhere in Delhi, Bugla, and they started manufacturing. And but those days, as I told you, air conditioning was a luxurious, and but now it has become a part and parcel of our life to everybody in that. So the government always put various initiatives to adopt the energy efficient system. They also introduced the star ratings, and they also so that if you don't have this much star, you cannot be come into the market, because and a common man may not be knowing all the thing in that. So So this is what I was telling on that day, this Oak Ridge National Laboratory, ORNL. And they are basically, it's a very good research laboratory based in US. And they do a lot of research study. Even they also develop a lot of modeling. Last time also I told that I have used their heat pump model, which they developed probably 30, 40 years ago for my simulation of some of my air conditioning system, maybe 30 years ago. And it was most of the source code was written on Fortran actually. And so they are also concluding that smart everybody is always trying to go for a smart HVAC system. And they also conclude that improving air conditioning efficiency could avoid almost 100 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So this is what the leading air conditioning engineers should invest more on their R&D. This is my personal conclusion in that. So if you see the traditional design process as a design stage, we have architect, the owner is there, architect directly relate with the owner because, and then we have contractors, we have engineers, then there are cost consultants, and then we have specialists like various specialists in lighting. We coming like this HVAC, acoustic, fire, security, communication, energy, commissioning, all this type of specialists will be there. So this is normally a traditional design process. Now, when I talk about the integrated design process, we need to have a design team leader with a certain target value. And then every time, the hierarchy, this is called as integrated design process. So the communication is everybody knows what they are doing actually. So this is the advantage of the integrated design process. And the key design activities for energy efficiency, this is a thing probably you may be also doing, but still just for a line diagram. First, the kick off the concept of the design, identify your design goals actually, then do some brainstorming sessions to understand the zoning and all the things in that. Then schematic design, when you go for the schematic design, come up with alternative routes. And then when you go to the development, lot of analysis when you do cost analysis, and then doing the documentation, design documentation, and then all these team members you present it, make them to understand because you bring them to your level, and every time you review it, all the various stages, and then it should be feedback also. This is a flow diagram which you may be doing also, but in the design activities, you have to do all these things in there. So yeah, when you do in the concept side, this is what I have shown in the figure, the status of the site conditions. As much as possible, these are some of the part will be useful by an architect. As much as possible, use the natural resources. Like even when you design your air conditioning, find as much as data like sun, wind, the orientation of the building in that, and low availability of the local state government. We have a federal government, so every state government got their own code also, and then they should also notify to amendment. They review it and they should review it to this ECBC, to the regional and local conditions in the state gazette. So much legal requirement is going on in India. Similarly, they must be doing in various states in USA also, but that is not the case here. So these all we know that when we start implementing this type of ECBC 2017 in India, and this what they're telling actually, if you start implementing, you definitely are able to save 50% energy saving by 2030 if you are designing the building based on this. And then you are going to reduce almost 15 gigawatt peak demand reduction because the load will also then you are also be able to save almost 250 metric megaton of CO2 savings in that. So that ECBC benefits states and all this, they should always have everything. Every state has got their own requirement in that. Now, then I said, told you this is basically you have to go for a cohesive decision. What is the, you have fixed the building fabric, energy efficiency, that is the central focus. Then you have testing side, and then design side, and then finally the commissioning and all the things. So that is the only figure graphical representation. So some of the critical design check, how you do it there. is the building is correctly oriented with regard to the prevailing wind and sun direction in this design stage itself. Because as an HVAC engineer, you always to have a data, or whether it is meeting as per our EC local building code, because architects also they follow, but you can always check it up with that. So your or the areas are arranged to minimize energy requirements. Some places the flow, the architect look in a different angle. But when you go and say the areas, you may always have a suggestion. And the flow of the areas, the meeting of the area, because this is what, again, at the integrated design, at this first this slide I mentioned, in that every communication, every stage, you have to interact with each end user. You like services in between, if you put in the middle of the building, or you want to put the building at the extreme end, how much loss will be there, pressure losses will be there. So these type of things probably, just one example I'm telling you that. Similarly, have you done all the calculations? These are some of the checklists. Have you done all these calculations for the insulation material, selecting the heat transfer coefficient? So what type of air conditioned area, shading factors, walls, the floors, even doors, and what type of window mechanism they have, and because you have so much infiltrated load. So this all in the checklist probably you must develop. You must develop based on your local code in that. So this will and as ASHRAE 91 point, they have put certain process in that. And it's a collective views of the manufacturing, because in this, it's a compilation of all the views for the manufacturers and the construction and communities. And then they also set minimum requirement for the energy efficient design and construction. So it is a very interesting document. It's a very big document. I think it is there in your reference notebook. Various chapters are there. And in that, they also apply all the standard would apply, whether the heating or cooling, the standard should be applied in that. And they also given, this is, we see various chapters. This is a chapter wise, what is the scope and all the things. So basically, the chapter 6 is mainly applicable to us, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Other things probably, I strongly recommend you should review it. If you have any doubt, you can always refer. If your architect is talking something about that, but this is again related with ASHRAE. Now you may tell, sir, this ASHRAE is telling like this. Now what my local building code is telling something that. So which one I should refer? But to my knowledge, most of these local building codes, when they develop, they always take this type of codes also as a reference material. So whenever there is a difference of opinion, you prefer to the local code, because ultimately you need to have a legally, you are answerable to the local regulation in that. So similarly, chapter 10, electric motors, regulates ITU system construction like that. So these all compliance path, how you have to comply various paths and in the energy rated. Then they also talking about the efficiency rating matrices. Now, everybody has got a different kind of matrices, like we called, somebody was called up a COP, and somebody called as energy efficiency ratio, nothing but kilowatt per ton. And then they called this seasonal energy efficiency ratio, particularly for the central air conditioning plant. And then they also called annualized metrics such as integrated part load value, IPLV, for the chillers, and integrated energy efficiency ratio, IER, for commercial rooftops, and variable refrigerant for VRF actually. This is another one, VRF system is also latest one, which is now variable refrigerant flow in that. And then we also talk about the seasonal efficiency ratio for the small package plant. So the annualized matrices are a much better representation of the true performance of the equipment, because most commercial equipment cell basically is, runs at full load. That you and everybody knows, because we design for the peak ambient condition. But that hardly occurs in a year, few days or few hours. So that industry is also, so that's what this industry is gradually moving the emphasis of the efficiency matrices from the full load matrices to the annualized matrices. So don't go for these full load matrices and go with the annualized matrices. So for that, you have to refer this type of data. Your local codes will definitely be a very good guiding factor for you to design a better energy efficient system in that. So you have to also compare the relative performance of the different type of systems, and you have to put in the system. If I go for a vapor compression system, or even with I go for a reciprocating compressor, or with I go with the scroll compressor, I know there are certain standards depending upon the load, but you can always go with various design aspects in the refrigeration side, and then when it comes to air conditioning side also. This type of analysis you can do through the energy modeling in that. Now, you see that the EER, I'm just telling an example, how much research and development we have developed now. In 1982, in the residency sector, they keep 7.14. Now in 2002, it has become 9.754. So that much improvement in the product they have done, product development they have done. So this is what the research organization like Oak Research National Laboratory, ORNL, when I was using their heat pump model, which was developed 30 years ago, it was so structured, the program was, so much correlation, so much compressor, local compressor based models, and only one area, probably the capillary design, they were using this heat and trial method. Otherwise, the heat exchanger design, the compressor design, it was very excellent. So this type of modeling, and then that is how they normally improve the product design in that. When it comes to central air conditioning, we focus more on seasonal energy efficiency ratio. You see that now 2006, it has come to even 13, isn't it? So this is much advancement development. Now, similarly, when I, as a thumb rule, yeah, maybe 1970s, if I take, just taking for the peak load, for this it was 0.9 kilowatt per ton, but now it has become almost 50%, or maybe 0.75 or 0.73. Even when we selected our this train chiller here in this thing, we have taken 0.72 or 73 in there. That's what they have quoted us in that. So these all for the various type of water cooled chillers, air cooled chillers, how the development started with ASHRAE as well as with the Energy Conservation Building Code, Government of India, both. So this is some of the standards with the COP as well as with the integrated part load value also. So this figures how the development started taking place in there for the water cooled chillers as well as water cooled air cooled chillers. The earlier one was ASHRAE. This is with the local Indian part in that. So we know about the inverter actually, about the VDF. So I don't want to go more detail onto that. We know that definitely it is proven fact that the VRF technology has really benefit us, particularly on central air conditioning system. I don't know, maybe you may ask, you may also evaluate yourself whether it's useful in a unitary type, particularly the local 1 ton or 1.5 ton. And as long as if the costs, they don't charge more, then it's okay. There's no disadvantage on that. So we should also have there's a certification process. Many of the chillers, I don't know whether you are going to put this AHRI certification process, because AHRI is another important institute, research institute, American Heating and Refrigeration Institute. They do so much certification, so much courses. They opened office in Dubai, this AHRI in that, because they know that the most potential area is Middle East, where these cooling equipments are used in that. So I have also seen some of their president in the various conferences or the meeting in that. And they normally do so much documentation, so much process. They also give the certification. So you should, when you are writing your specification, you should specifically mention they want that it should be AHRI certified. It's like quality accreditation. Like last time when I was talking about the hospital accreditation, somebody was asking what are the things. Yes. So in that, if you go for the checklist, one of the checklists, are you following this type of standards? So for that, there will be weightages will be there. So the verification of the equipment efficiency is very important. And then more than that, they may be the certificate. But even I strongly recommend what I told in the first class. Suppose you are trying to take higher capacity, very special, very critical equipment, you should always go to the manufacturing plant and you should do the performance test at the site itself. Sorry, at the manufacturing place. And then you verify, issue the test certificate. And then after coming back, when you are installing, that time also we can verify that one in that. So when it comes to ventilation system controls, yesterday we discussed ASHRAE section, all this for the fresh air. But here, when it comes to the ASHRAE 90, the section 6 heating and cooling section 6, in that section 6 4.34, they talk about the ventilation system, all particularly about the controls. how we can control the chamber leakages, ventilation fan in that. So this is also maybe when you are doing design. So this type of design definitely you can recommend actually the manufacturers also in that. So pressure drop. Normally we always talk about high velocity, medium velocity, low velocity design. So how much the pressure drop will come? Why you should go for a high velocity? Why we should not go for a low velocity? Because if you see the capital cost, generally we see that if I design a high velocity, the capital cost will be less because less material. But fact is not that. The research what they have done, if you see the system velocity for a capital cost, for low velocity, the capital cost is low. You see the figure in that. In the figure, if you compare it, and because you have to compare when you go the high velocity, the pressure drop is very high when you go for the higher velocity. But when you go for the low velocity, your pressure drop is less. So the electricity cost is less. And so accordingly, the capital cost will be also less in that. So this is just for comparison I have given in that. Similarly, we should go for a direct digital controller DDC requirement, which I was talking about the BMS and the sensors and all the thing in that. So economizer basically always most of the time so much air we are taking out, particularly in the outdoor environment when you are taking, you need to have a proper heat exchanger, air to air heat recovery, and that air to air heat recovery exchangers also you should properly design it in the design stage itself. Then this is some of the sections we talk about that what type of dehumidification you have to do, what type of humidification. Generally, the dehumidification if you do it in the cooling coil, because cooling and dehumidification depending upon the number of ADP when you are taking the design. And but the use for the humidification, it's always we use steam humidifiers because you always put some preheat jacket that heats up the steam injection nozzles to avoid the steam condensing in the duct system. Because majority of the time when you include the humidifier humidification system, particularly in the clean room areas, when you design these AHUs for operation and operation theaters, and you need to be very, very careful. And AHU manufacturers also, all the stages you need to have a check mechanism. And otherwise, in one place, if you ignore it, and that definitely will have so much impact. And during the operation time also, and then whatever you are doing, it will not be this thing. And then this section, fan efficiency, beautifully they are talking that nowadays fan technology has so much advancement. There's fans and blowers is a very specialized subject. It is nothing but a mechanical engineering centrifugal pumps. But because fan is nothing but we are handling with the air, and a pump is handling the blower. So most of the time centrifugal blowers. It may be forward curved or backward curved or normal curve, but axial flow also has got its own advantages and disadvantages. So these are the fan efficiencies talking about this section. Since it was 90.1, these sections are given in that. Similarly, the submission completion requirement, STI 90.1 clearly says when you are talking submission for your building regulations and all the thing, you have to so what are the submission requirements should be there. So the drawings, manuals, system balancing section, system commissioning section, this is all the submission as per the ASHRAE 90.1. The minimum equipment efficiency tables also given in section 6.8. And they also compare it with all the things, minimum matrices for the equipment standard rating conditions defined by the AHRI. Even they also talk about the ISO. Then we also have a Association of Home Manufacturers, the DOE, Department of Energy, and we have Cooling Tower Institute. So all is covering in that section. In that. So this probably you have done a special class on the data center is emerging now, maybe for the last 20-25 years. This data center, the air conditioning system is a very specialized subject because you have so much sensible heat in that. So that already you are a specialized course on that. So we have also, as far as Indian Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and they have put some target actually. They are also doing wonderful job. What they are telling, the current penetration of the low carbon cooling technologies in India is noticeably very low. This is what their observation. And they're demonstrating that this segment faces challenges and requires immediate attention and collaborative action from all players within the ecosystem in order to promote growth. So this is the recommendation of this one. So this is a different technology. Mostly they used in Europe, particularly in UK. The radiant and structured cooling in that. So this is a simple one normally. I don't know how far it can be applicable in India as well as in Middle East countries. So far, I have not done one. But when I used to read a lot of SIPS articles, SIPS research papers, they do so much work. They embedded these pipes, cooling pipes, chill water pipe or hot pipes within the this called as the structure of above the beam itself. So this is then it radiates through the natural convection. So thereby they avoid the forced convection in that. How it will be effective and all the thing, I don't know. I have not designed. So I've just for your information, I thought that this may be one of the. They are timing that radiant cooling definitely it will improve the thermal efficiency because it will also help us to improve the insulation and air tightness.
Sir, is it
So
like
this is what they're telling. So how much? Yeah, yes.
like in this radiant cooling, do you think it is a better option at the time of heating instead of cooling?
Yeah, that is what still that's what I answered. I also told I have not done here in Middle East. Nobody knows that. But if you see in any all the research papers, journals, many paper it comes to me. I normally very politely send back them. I am not expert on that. But majority of the systems, because those European countries they spend a lot of heating systems all embedded in that, in say along the wall, and their wall is also not like we are a brick wall and all the things. They normally go with the normal simple wall, knockout, very easy insulation one with insulated wall. So in between they embedded this type of pipes and then they circulate the hot water. So instead of hot water, they allow the cool water because there's been summer is hardly only 2 months, maybe May, June. After that, if you go to the whole Canada or even if you go to Europe or even US, if you come to this all New York and everything, only May, June, even May is also. I know even the Germany and all that is even May, June, when I was talking to my brother, he was telling even that time also that outside temperature was 8 degrees centigrade. Just imagining that. So this is just one point which they are climbing. This is also one way probably we can save the energy efficiency. And but I don't have much idea because I have not done much work here in this part of the world. But probably you may people, since you are doing for your client in US, so that is the reason I have also included this one. And maybe in India also, I don't know how much it will be useful. India also, we don't know much because it also involves so much coordination with your civil contractor in the building design in that. So, and then again, I'm coming to the evaporative cooling system. Majority of the time, whenever you want to take, depending upon the projects, if you are taking so much outdoor air, why can't you take outdoor air, particularly when you have a dry climate? For example, if you are designing a air conditioning system in places like in Delhi, most of the time from the March onwards, March, April, May, June, these 4 months, the humidity, especially February, March, April, May, your dry bulb temperature goes almost 45 degrees centigrade. But your humidity is only 20% or 25, 30%. So the if you plot in your psychrometric chart, you don't need even air conditioning. So if you are taking 100% fresh air, instead of taking 45 degrees centigrade, you use this air washer, cool that. I know you are going to dehumidify it. That is definitely a disadvantage. But now we have so much active dehumidification coil. There is a lot of improvement in the cooling coil design. Or worst case, we can use some of the another chemical dehumidifiers also we can use. So this is what innovative design. So the sky is the limit on that. That's what I'm telling. Like the same thing which I did here in this project. I was telling here when Oman Museum, we have this 100. It's a dry area. Many places we have to take 100% fresh air. So we have included this type of evaporative cooling system. And I know the water is very, very expensive here, but we have done analysis. And because of that, by cooling load, the capital cost has really reduced almost 20 to 30% in that. And the recurring cost also, it includes in that. So finally, what I'm going to conclude is, we know the building code, local building code is very, very important. It is to be addressed by the HVAC incident all levels. Energy saved is energy generated. ASHRAE 90.1, all the time talk about the energy efficiency. We have a local grades and codes. SDMA is basically for the Middle East. When the energy modeling is definitely very important, even the design stage. And then during the operation stage, we should go for the regular energy audit. Then we should always go for, in the design stage itself, we should go for the alternative technologies and then efficient controls in that. As I told you, energy conservation is a very important topic, a very interesting topic also. Starting from the beginning, you should go for the proper classification, what type of system you need. So from that time, in the pre-concept stage itself, you should focus more work and you should classify it properly. Then you also should the room volume, basically the ventilation rate, where you have, because like I was telling, 100% fresh air, how much return you are going to take. So in that, you have a lot of opportunities to reduce the load in that. Similarly, air change, because the air change normally they recommend ranges 50 to 60 or 20 to 10 to 25. So both options, how much depending upon your outdoor, how you are going to take and how much amount of quantity of return air you are taking in that. Similarly, optimal equipment sizing, the factor of safety what you are going to take in your load calculations. Then when it comes to the distribution and the reduction pressure drop, also you have to select in such a way all this available equipment meets the local code requirement also. The right equipment location. This is again I'm telling in that. When you your master plan, when you are designing, that is also I told integrated design from the concept, and again you put your services somewhere else and then you take kilometers without much insulation, so much energy loss will be there. So that's a simple concept. Like in electricity, the power stations, the transmission loss, still we don't have a technology. So much power what we are generating, we are losing into the transmission loss. Throughout the world, engineers are doing research how to minimize the transmission loss in the power transmission loss. So that is what nowadays everybody started going for the microgrid. And then you also have so much transformers, substations, and everything in that. So even now, when the renewable energy concepts are coming, we also are always talking about this universal grid concept now. So if when by using this nanotechnology, because I'm not going to that one. So right equipment location, then optimizing the outside air, selecting the high efficiency equipment based on the various local standard, whether it is COP or IPLB or energy efficiency ratio or seasonal energy efficiency ratio. Similarly, the right configuration of the equipment. So this will definitely help you to become a very good energy conservation engineer, and you can select the better energy efficient system in that. So thank you very much. And if you have any question, please ask me that. And if tomorrow also, if you are attending, probably I can talk tomorrow about the clean room actually, because this will be also another interesting related with this one in that. I'm leaving up to choice actually. The same time, if you want, I'm ready, but it's up to you.
No,
I
Doctor.
don't have any issue.
Yeah, management has spoken to me, and tomorrow there are no lectures.
Okay, they are busy, leave it, no problem. No, I'm just asking if they are selling tomorrow also working day. That's what I was thinking. Yes, because it's relevant. Immediately people have maybe holidays they can use to revise it. That then when they come to next class, they can come with more questions in that. Lot of study materials also I have shared it. I will be sharing many more also. Whatever like energy study what I have done for a different kind of buildings. That paper I will search it today now, because I'm not that much organized. Some of the papers I normally don't put in the right place. So I have to search it and I have to send it. So that is a delay actually. Whenever I get this type of papers, I will definitely send it. I have almost published more than about 1900 research papers throughout my industrial career. I am not an academician, even though I work in industry, but still interact, and then I convert this type of case studies, and then I send to most of these conferences. And then I also make very interesting paper which comes for my review also for the journal papers in that. If that type of some papers, interesting papers are there, I will definitely share it with you that. So thank you very much, and I leave it to you now. That.
Sir, this side Shubham.
Yes,
And
sir.
when we were talking about that supplying cold air into the conditioned zones, instead of supplying it neutral, like if I'm supplying it air at say 48 or 47 degree Fahrenheit to a room, do we like generally
That is variable air volume system. When you are combining chilled water system, VAB with the VAB. Yes. Yeah, that is for the VAB system. Because that's what VAB system, the advantage is the supply temperature, they set point the normally 45 degree Fahrenheit. Normally now what will be the your chilled water supply temperature. Generally, we set 5 degrees centigrade or 4 degrees centigrade. And the return normally the delta T in any chiller, the delta T is normally 4 degrees centigrade. Just 1 minute, sir. So, yeah, with that VAB system, variable air volume system, is basically 25 years back only. Otherwise, earlier days we always talk about the constant volume supplier system in that. So VAB system particularly is very efficient for the part load condition in that. So now when you are talking, I don't know how you are specifying your water cooled chillers or air cooled chillers. How much delta T normally you in your specification in the bill of quantities you put in the delta T? How much you are putting? 4 degrees centigrade or 5 degrees centigrade or 6 degrees centigrade when you are writing your technical specification?
Say for like my question was something different, but if you're asking, like as I know that 90.1 actually
Yes.
section, I guess 6.5.4.7 something, that
Yes.
says with that we should select a cooling coil for a minimum 15 degree Fahrenheit delta T. So we usually go with that. But you know, there are times when I've seen some of the designers selecting it, you know, below that 15 degree Fahrenheit delta T. Sometimes they go with 12 degrees, sometimes 13 or 14 degree. So, like, are there any exceptions to, you know, this requirement that we need to select it more, like for 15 degree Fahrenheit, or it is like a compulsion and must be followed in every design wherever we are using chilled water cooling coils?
Yeah, no. That standard is giving one, but it all depends upon the our application also. Maybe if they are designing the designers like 12 degrees centigrade, probably I don't know what type of application actually the delta T in that, and what type of location. Many factors involved in that. But at the same time, you cannot now design with delta T 26 degree or 30 degree. The range is now, it may be plus or minus here 1% or 2%. It's allowed. But they cannot go more than that, because in that case, you may not have the efficiency, will not perform also. Isn't it? Now, instead of 15 degree Fahrenheit, he has gone for 12 degrees centigrade, 12 degree. So there could be some factors in that, but there's no hard and fast rule in that. There's a lot of flexibility in that. Standard specifies certain values, and then there are recommended values. Now, if you are going here down and you are going even slightly up also, if you are going to get benefit for during your modeling time, during your analysis time, and that you can definitely take it in that. Standard, all the standards are only for guidance purpose, and it is not necessary unless otherwise if you have a legal requirement in the local building code. So if a local requirement code said no, you have to make, for example, inside condition. Local gate says that for a mall, you should not put your indoor condition 19 degrees centigrade or 20 degrees centigrade. So if you consider 19 degrees, they must have given, it should be minimum 26 plus or minus 3. They put 25 plus or minus local. For example, Delhi mall. The mall and the local code says 26 plus or minus 2. But the ASHRAE standard says 24 plus or minus 2. So which one you will prefer? You have to prefer the local code, isn't it? So that's what the local code basically definitely has to be given more importance in that. And if you design, if you are trying to take now indoor condition, say 20 degree, then you are basically wasting the energy. You are also wasting a lot of capital cost, then recurring cost also. So this is how we have to use your judicially the code and standard with your experience and application to application in that.
I think Shubham, your question was something else. You said.
Yeah, my question was, suppose I'm having a dedicated outdoor air unit,
Okay.
and with that I'm supplying air, that is just the outdoor air to certain zones. And instead of supplying the air neutral at 75 Fahrenheit, I have planned to supply it, say, at 47 Fahrenheit or something, 47 or 48. I was actually planning this one on a project I did earlier, and the architect told me some you know, problems with condensation on walls. because of that much, low
Exactly,
temperature
exactly.
air.
Yes, yes, yes. Because the difference in pressure will be very, very low, and you will be losing a lot of energy. Now you are cooling at your cooling coil. The design says you can do it for 75 degree Fahrenheit. Now
Like
you are cooling
actually,
it.
but sir,
Yeah, please.
like in that, the idea behind that was because, cooling, the outside air that was humid. So I
Yes,
had to you dehumidify that. But
correct.
since I have dehumidified it at 55 Fahrenheit, suppose 50
Okay.
Fahrenheit, 55,
Yes,
then
yes.
to make it neutral, I had to reheat again. I was trying to, protect that reheating and supply
Mm,
that outdoor air at 55, say 47 Fahrenheit, that much
mm,
cold.
mhm.
And I was thinking that, that much cold air will offset some part of the sensible load in the zone as well. So the terminal cooling unit,
Yes,
I
yes.
was thinking that could be sized a little, with a lesser capacity. So that was the idea behind that. Earlier, I was planning to put some, linear slot diffusers so that
Mm-hmm,
there that much, that cold air could be distributed very well. But
mm-hmm,
that problem of condensation of on walls, that became a major issue, and then and later on I had to supply air at neutral instead of
mm-hmm.
cold.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That is yes.
so in
Correct.
what
I think
climatic
yes.
conditions should we go with these kind of options? Because if architect would have allowed and the climate would have permitted, that
Yes.
could have been a better option. Correct me if I'm
Exactly.
wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Or probably again, now, I don't know how much the distance actually. You are outdoor unit, you are taking this ducting and on how you are taking your outdoor through conditioned air at a 55 degrees centigrade. Okay, you are dehumidified. Let us assuming that you don't use the reheat now. You are taking this 55 degree supply air, the air conditioned air, you are taking through the ducting. Then your terminal side, how this ducting has to go through on various level. How you have to through the shaft, or is it passing through the
There was just a
air conditioning area?
one-story school building, so there was
Uh-huh.
no shaft. I was just like from from the dedicated outdoor air unit, I was taking it to
Uh-huh.
the ceiling,
Okay, okay,
and then was
okay.
distributed. And
Okay, that is
just
the
adding
reason.
one
Yeah,
more point, sir.
yeah,
Uh,
please.
Actually, I have learned that 90.1, the ASHRAE
Yes,
90.1, that
yes.
also allows us, or in some areas, that restricts the reheating, and then give some exceptions where we can do the reheating. But 90.1 generally says that we should prevent reheating. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah, correct, exactly. Because you are basically you are cooling and then again you are reheating. It is an air based, and then moreover
Exactly,
the
sir.
reheating when you put the heaters, in particularly when you come to the VAV system, most of the time this reheaters all at the terminal point it creates a problem. In the operation point of view also, yes. In the VAV system, I mentioned it is correct. You are absolutely correct in that. Yes.
So, like, in what kind of situation, like, is it like a something which we cannot do in school building or should not do in school building, or some commercial application would be better for this kind of approach? Or maybe how about like optimization, the outdoor air optimization? Suppose I'm planning, and then I'll
Yes.
say that with that outside air, I will
Mm-hmm.
supply it at say 50 Fahrenheit. I'll supply it cold. With that, I'm planning, suppose, to offset some of the latent load and the sensible load in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
But suppose the occupancy drops down. A school
Mm-hmm.
which was earlier planned for 50 students in a class today
Yes.
is having just say 15 students,
Yes.
and we are having occupancy sensors. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, the BMS system reads, okay, now I need to provide just the fresh air for those 15 students,
Yes.
and that outdoor air reduces. So
Yes.
in that case, like, should I, size my equipment for those cases as well, the terminal, the terminal unit, because in
You know
those
that.
cases they
But
yes.
you must have also gone for VAV system, isn't it? The terminal rate, there will be a dampers will be there, which will
Mm-hmm.
accordingly when
Uh-huh.
we are selecting. This is again you have a VAV system, variable air volume system,
Yes, sir.
isn't it? You must have taken the VAV system. You have the dampers are there. That will accordingly give the sensors and it will actuate your BMS. Then it regulates your flow in the outdoor unit also.
Mm-hmm. But because
So what type of system? Uh,
earlier maybe I was maybe I'm planning to offset
Uh-huh.
some of the sensible load by that outside air. Suppose I was
Yeah, okay.
supplying 500 CFM, but
Okay.
today the outside air requirement is just 100 CFM.
Okay.
So then the sensible load inside the zone,
Yes.
that may, in some cases supersedes the capacity of the terminal unit.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, I face this kind of problem. Are we going to have a VAV system in detail in the next lecture?
Yes, yes. There is one class completely. VAV system one class is there. Even if you want, I can take tomorrow immediately in continuation of that one. A VAV, complete VAV system. I am talking in that. Again, I am talking about the ASHRAE standard also in that. I'm referring this 90.1 in that also. VAV
Maybe we
system
can
is
get
there.
a
Yes.
better answer there.
Yes, that's right.
Shubham,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to disturb you, doctor. You're
Yes.
asking about the school. I think you are designing, and your doubt is pertaining to mainly school. Doctor has given me on the reference material regarding school, that is solar cooling and all, which I've already uploaded in the folder of sustainability lecture. So in your free time, you can go into that and
Yeah,
study also that
actually,
reference material pertaining to the school.
I
So
understand.
idea.
And we will check. And I'd actually went through that. And this was just a question, but was not answered in that. Maybe in the future lectures where doctor will be, explaining the VAV in detail, we can get the
Yeah,
answer.
maybe that time we can link it in that.
Yeah, and
Yes, that's
school
right.
is being more fluctuating kind of a load because sometimes
Yes, sir.
students are attending,
Correct.
sometimes they are into the lab, and definitely the system is totally different than others. Your question was very much valid in that case.
And one more requisite to a doctor and Neeraj, that maybe you can put some more light and explain more about these kind of the chartered engineer, how to be a PE and those things, and what are the utility of those in future, and how to go through those. So maybe that can be helpful. At least
I
I'm
will do it.
interested.
Yeah. Okay, that's good actually. I think many of the people are already, you have a chartered engineers. This is what you told when I asked the first day, first beginning of my lecture. So
Actually,
you are,
Wayne
what?
said that we are trying, we're working on that path. Some of us are working.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. That of course I can even send I will share in the reference material. I
So
have
yeah,
actually the
maybe
root
I
of
got
that
the
one.
question. What I mean to say is, see, the PE is normally Canada and USA is recognized.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you do the PE, they have a high chance of immigration and the value to the degree. So
Not,
just
yeah, not just immigration, but yes, like that gives credential to the
No,
work.
credentials. This type of C engineering, you have so much professionals people. No, see, learning is a continuous process. Every stage and experience, practicing engineering comes only by experience. How
Mhm.
when I still remember in 1985 when I was in somewhere near Chandigarh, in front of me the chilled water system and the ducting pipe in 2 years. Everything we studied in on paper academically. But when in front of me, when practically when I saw, then when I involved in the various type of process design, after 2 years, 87 or 88, when I returned back to my headquarters design. So when I had a different kind of decent project, as I told you, we have a DRDO, ordnance factories, supercomputing, fiber optic cables, even cold rooms, even comfort air conditioning, UPS, ADC, many projects. So every project when